grade 11, we're going to do an array program now. Quite an interesting one. We have a text file for this program. Sorry, let me find it. Oops. And in this program's text file, there are a lot of names. There they are. So it's called names.txt. We're going to read from the text file into an array. In the load the names button, we will read from that text file into an array. So I'm double clicking load, and I'll, if not file exists names.txt. As I told you, this is actually obligatory. So message file exit. Right. Now, reading from a text file, we might remember that we need a text file variable and we need a string. So I've got my file and S1 line. So I'll assign file, my file, names.txt, and reset my file, and then while not end of file my file, we will read Gr11 from my file into S1 line. So you remember that, so that's a bit of revision there. What we're going to do is we're going to go and take S1 line and put it straight into an array. Where is this array? Well, this array has to be global because we're going to do all of these things with the same array. So all of those button clicks are going to be using the array, so it has to be a global variable. Let's go and make a global variable. We can call it, we can do it here, ARR names colon array 1, 2, well, we actually don't know how many names there are. Maybe being a bit of an overkill there with 1,000, but never mind. And remember, of string. And then we need remember that we have to have a counter, our count ARR, which is going to hold the number of boxes that we actually fill. There will be 1,000 available, quite a lot, maybe too much. And then we have a counter which is going to hold how many boxes will be filled when we read from the array. Now, in order to use this counter, we have to set it to 0 before we start reading from our text file. And each time we read a line, we'll increment it. So we increment our count ARR, and now we go and put that S1 line into the array. We'll say ARR names square brackets our count ARR equals S1 line. And there we have read all the names into the array. Okay, so that line is very important. And the increment. Standard routine here. So in the program it says that all the other buttons must now be enabled and this button must be disabled. The BTN load must no longer be enabled, and BTN display, BTN search, and BTN partial search must be enabled. But enabled equals true, and the others BTN search and BTN partial search, and then this button that we are in at the moment must be disabled. So we'll make that enabled property false. This button, click BTN load. Right, so that's that code done. Now display the names. To get the names from that global array and put them in the rich edit, that's what we're going to do. So we double click the button for display already out.clear, it's always a good idea. And then we have to use a for loop going from 1 to our count ARR get every single name from our array and put it in the rich edit. So make a nice little globe, a for loop counter, and we'll say for k equals 1, 2, our count AOR. Remember, our count AOR is our counter for the number of boxes, and then we say rich edited lines of add AOR names square brackets k. Simple as that. There we go, and that's that done. And we can go and run this program. That's how you're going to go through every single box of the array and put it into rich edit. Okay, and luckily the array is an array of strings. Let's go and run the program. Oops, why do I have an error there? Why do I have sound file? Oh no, incompatible types. Makes sense. Let's rewrite this statement. Text file variable, our file, which is, oh, I forgot to make it a text file variable there. Yeah, that was silly, hey? Text file, or text file variable, data type. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, we run the program. My computer's not so fast. Right, load the names. Oops, message access violation. That could mean that we have too many. Reset. Read line. Okay, let's save this. Okay, load the names. It does say access violation. Run program reset. If we get to the text file, names.txt, well, oh, how many lines? 1088. Jeepers. 2000. Let's make it 2000. Right, that access violation was because there were too many names in the text file, couldn't go into the array. So that was a good exercise. A nice little error there. We learned something from. Right, now we display the names and there they are. So it's 1088 names in that text file. I had made the array only up to 1000, but now I've changed it to 2000. Okay, so there's 1000 names here, which is quite a lot of names there. Right, now we're going to find a name. We're going to write code to find a name in that array. We're going to search through the array and look for a name. So let's double click the button and ask the user to enter a name. Here, rs name. We'll use an input box. Enter a name. Then we have to go through each box of the array and find a name. Problem is that we do need to stop when we find it. As soon as we find the name, we want to stop running, I want the loop to stop. So we're not going to use a for loop, we're going to use a while loop. It's going to go from 1 to the end, or 1 until we stop. Normally we use a for loop to go through our array, but now, remember, we use a for loop to display it. Where's our display button? So I'll show you, remember, you want to display everything, use a for loop to go from 1 to the very last one. But now we want to stop when we find a name. So we want to use a while loop. Wow, not wow. But in order to go through the array, we need a counter. So we need some kind of a counter. We can call it k, except we won't use it in the for loop. We're going to use it here in our while loop. So I'm going to set my k equal to 0, and I'm going to say while k is less than or equal to our count a or r. Do. And there's a reason why I've got brackets there, because we have two conditions in this while loop. We want to be able to search through every single line of the text file. I mean, not the text file, the array. Remember, these are going to be an array now. And when we find the name that we're looking for, let's say it's Kolobe, we want the loop to stop. If we want to go all the way to 1088 names, we want to stop as soon as we find the name that matches. Okay, so we have a little, what we call a Boolean flag, which is going to be set to true as soon as we found it. Be found, we set it to false, and then in the while loop, we'll say, well, as soon as we find it, we want it to be set to true. Well, in the while loop, we'll say while we have not found it. So what this while loop conditions, what these while loop conditions are saying is saying, while we are not at the end of the array, and while we have not found it. So while we're not at the end of the array, and while we have not found it, this and here is actually quite important. If we put an or there, it's going to go all the way. The second condition won't even apply, because remember, well, I don't know whether we've covered this, maybe we have, whether when you have an or statement here, this must be true. If this is true and that is false, in other words, be found is true, this whole loop will just carry on until both of them are true. But if you have an and here, that means the loop will stop as soon as one of these conditions are true. So we have to have an and there so that this whole loop will stop. Because the and says that we have to have this and that true. If one of them is false, if let's say k is not k is now greater than r count a or r, okay, that is false and that is true, the loop will stop. But the loop's going to carry on until both of them, well, while those both are true. Both these conditions must be true for the loop to continue. So the and is very important over there. What I'm going to do now is increment k, so I can look at box number k of my array. You see I'm incrementing k here. It was 0, now it's 1. Then we're going to ask the question, if ARR names box number k equals s name, then you'll understand this while condition, these while conditions better just now. If they are equal, then we'll set be found to true. Okay, now let's have a look at what happens here. So we've set be found to false, k starting at 0, and while k is less than or equal to r count a or r. Okay, so as soon as it goes greater than r count a or r, this while loop should stop. But if we find a match, this be found must be true. You know, in other words, be found is true here. That be found is true. We also want it to stop. We don't want it to carry on, even though be found is true. Okay. So that's why we have to have an and. If we put an or there, it's going to carry on regardless. The while loop will carry on until this becomes false. In other words, until r count a or r is greater than k is greater than the number of boxes that are filled. So we need an AND so we can stop it as soon as we find true. As soon as we found a match, and B found is then set to true. So it's going through every single box of the array, checking the names, this name from the input box, and seeing if it matches the names in the array. If it does, then B found set to true, and then the processor goes over there and says, is B found true or is it false? Well, if it's true, the while loop will stop, and then we'll go to the next line. What's going to happen in the next line? Well, we want to find it. Okay, find the first occurrence. Well, first occurrence is in character number. Let's say we want to store not character number, array index number. So I'm going to call that index I found. I'm going to set I found equal to k, so I can keep it safe. So I say, okay, the place where we found it is in box number I found, or index number I found. So now we're going to basically let's display a message, or well, we can actually put it into the rich edit. Okay, into the rich edit we'll put in what I found is, and the name of the name that's found. Output.clear, and we'll say, oops, rich edit, and then we will just go and display already out dot lines dot add. We'll say its name is found at index number plus int2 string I found. So that's what I'm going to do. Let's say where the actual name is found. Now, there's one thing I did miss out with the display button. We actually need to put our index k. So I'll just use the #9 here. We want to display rich edit in the rich edit. In that display button, click event, the actual box number or index number, which will be k, and the name from the array. And then in the search click button, where we entered a name, this is the searching for a name, finding one name, the first occurrence of a name. We're not worried about all the others, just we'll only find the first occurrence of a name. There might be duplicates, we're not worrying about that now. What we're doing is finding the first time that we see the name in the array. So we'll have our counter for our while loop equal to 0, and that's also the counter that's going to be going through each index of the array. We have a Boolean variable so that we can stop searching as soon as we find it. So b found equals false, and the while loop has to have while k is less than equal to I count AOR, so that we can go all the way to the end. What we can do is, if we do not find a match, in other words the name doesn't exist, we should have some code here saying if b found equals false after the while loop. Okay, so that's the while loop's end there. Then after the while loop has happened, we want to do something. If b found is false, we want to actually display. Okay, already out dot lines dot add no name found, or name not found. Name not found, just anything simple to save time. Obviously you can do it better when you have more time. Right, already our dot clear should actually happen before that. So if we find the name, we're going to display that we found it, else we will display not found. So there's my else happening here. If we find it, we'll display no, we didn't find it. And if we do, oh no, if we don't find it, we'll display that we haven't found it. Otherwise, we will display that it is found, and we'll display the index as well. So now let's go back to this algorithm here. Very tricky. This while loop is replacing the for loop, and that is the condition using the k as our counter for our while loop. We increment k until we reach the number of boxes that are filled. Okay, if it's equal to our count ARR, well, that's not going to work. We actually need to increment our count ARR somewhere else. Okay, so we say less than. This is very tricky. You need to make sure that sorry. Okay, if I keep my increment counter there, so I'll start it at 0, and if I say okay, we're checking increment k, so we're checking box number 1, and then we box number 2, then box number 3, and then box number 4, and so on until we get to 1087. So we've incremented box number 1 now, and now it's 1088. We're checking box number 1088. Okay. Okay. So if our count ARR is 1088, which is the number of names there are, then we can, 1087, we can increment k, we'll have 1088. We still have an item in 1088, therefore we can check that if it's equal to our name that was entered. So the loop will stop if our count is if k is equal to our count ARR, in other words the number of boxes that are filled, then it won't, the loop will stop. Of course we can't go and increment to the next one. Okay, so I have to take that equal sign away there. It all depends on where you increment k. If I put the equal sign back, then I must increment k over here at the bottom, and that's the basic rule. It's quite tricky, but you must always keep track of where you're incrementing k and where you're starting. If you're starting k with 0, well then we have to start k with 1. Okay, so if I'm leaving the equal sign, I must start with 1 and then only increment k down here. Okay, so that will work. So I'm going to run the program. Right now, what name are we going to search for? Look for Kolobe. Load names, display names, so you can see they're all numbered now on the name. Now this will only work if I use capital letters, right? If I use small letters anyway, I'm going to have a problem. So uppercase, whatever the user types in. There, I'm doing it now. Or I could have uppercased it over there. Doesn't matter. Either way, I'll go and type in any name like John, say. There probably won't be a John. Oh, there is a John. Okay. Any other nonsense name not found, right? That works perfectly fine. Now we're going to do a trickier one even. We're going to find part of a name. So if a person enters characters that are found in a name, in other words, like a bunch of characters, like, I don't know, we'll see. We're going to use a similar code. Okay, I'm copying and pasting here just to save time. Use similar code to what we've just done. But in this time, okay, we enter a partial name. Okay, I'm going to use the same looping conditions, but this time we're going to say if pos, the position of s name in ARR names, box number K, if that is not equal to naught, pars returns the integer, which refers to the character number of a substring that occurs in a larger string. And if it's not equal to naught, we know that that substring does occur in the large string. So the first parameter of pars is our little string that we're looking for, and the second parameter is the large string which we are searching, and pars returns an integer, which is the character position, and if that is not equal to naught, in other words it does occur, then we can say that we found it. But in this case, what we're going to do is we are going to display, not necessarily going to, you're not going to have a b found equals false and so on, because we want to go through every single index, every single box of our array. So we will not use a Boolean variable because we don't want the loop to stop before when we find a match, because we want to find all the matches. The last exercise we were doing, we were just looking for one, and we were going to stop as soon as we found one. Found the match and then we stopped. But yeah, we want to look through every single string, and when we find it, then we want to display it in the rich edit. And not only that, we want to display the index number and the string itself. So, and of course I'm going to already out dot clear here, and I don't need this code here. So the difference with this one and the previous button was now we are going to go through every single box of the array, whereas before we wanted to stop as soon as we found a match. But in this one we're going to go through all the boxes, therefore our while loop is going to be doing that. And I don't even need a while loop, I can use a for loop, you know. But never mind, we're practicing using a while loop going through an array. Could have used a for loop to go through every single box, you know. It would be silly of me to use a while loop, but you know the idea now. We know how to use a while loop going through an array, so we can use this as well. Right, so that's what we do. When you find the position of the partial name inside the array content, remember that K is going to go through every single box of the array, all the names. Imagine this is your array going down, and each one has got a number. You know, it's all in each is in a separate index of the array. Okay, because that's what we did in the reading from the text file. And it's going to go through each one when it finds. So that AR names box number K is a string, and S name is our partial string. And if it's not equal to naught, we will display the box number of the array that it occurs and the actual array contents of that box number, the string that's in that index. Okay. Right, so I'm going to run the program, and we're going to go and look for something, some names. Let's see. I'm going to load the names, display the names, and they're all loaded into the array. Okay, that's just because it's a long name, it doesn't fit on the line of the text file. Find a name. Okay, let's say Jane. Okay, name not found, never mind. Find part of a name. Let's say Matla. Click OK. Oops, didn't find anything. Right, so we didn't, if we don't find it, we do actually need to like have some idea, hey? Display all the names containing those letters. Okay, the instruction in the code doesn't, in the question doesn't say that we have to do something if we don't find it. Yeah, but if we don't find it, maybe having a little variable here Yeah, let's go and put a little variable back. That's not going to be part of our while loop. Just going to say be found over here. If we find a match, I'll make our boolean data type equal to true, and at the end here I will say if be found equals false, you know, then we must display something. Already dot lines dot add no names found that match the partial string. Okay, else we will display that the search is complete, something to that effect. Alright, so I want to go and find some matches. We also need to do uppercase. Okay, so uppercase would be a good idea. Let's uppercase the input box components, contents. When we use our sname variable, so sname was our partial name, and yeah, let's go and see if we can find something now. Okay, we're never going to find that one name. Not found. We're using the partial name. Now the book activity suggested using matla. So there it is. There we go. 7 for 7. So that is done. Okay. Maybe even put a little heading here saying already out dot lines dot add names containing the letters name. There we go. So we've got that in our rich edit. The heading, maybe, you know, so that's what you can do. All right. So if you don't understand it straight away, go and watch it again and try it by yourself. Okay.